Good morning. I would like to call the meeting of the Board of Education of St. Mary's County to order for today, Wednesday, February 10th, 2016. First item is a motion to move into executive session.
I move that we go into executive session for personnel, collective bargain, or legal, property acquisition issues and student issues, Maryland Local Government Code Articles, Section 9-512A, 1, 2, 6, and 10.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. You have a lot of stuff. Scott, do you need another? You ready? Okay. All right, I'd like to reconvene the meeting of the St. Mary's County Board of Education for Wednesday, February 10th, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And with that, I'm seeking a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Board reports. Ms. Lee?
Thank you. Recently, we had a General Assembly for the St. Mary's Association of Student Councils. One of the main highlights of this agenda was the election for the student member of the board for next year. And I'm happy to announce that Miss Roma Concaria from Great Mills High School, who will be a junior in school year 2016-17, won the election. I have invited her to attend an evening meeting to be recognized and meet everyone. In addition to the elections, we talked about service learning projects. So a lot of different schools, they have several service learning projects that they are part of. And at the General Assembly, we wanted to share these ideas so that students from different schools could see what other schools are doing and think about what they could do in their school. I also talked about the new SMCPS website and showed how students can access the student page and all the resources that are available, and then also how they can input different changes that they could see made and suggestions that they have for improvement. The last item that we talked about was the 2016 summit, and at the General Assembly, I wanted to generate interest for the students who will lead this year. I was pleased to see that several returning students will be attending the planning meeting that's upcoming, in addition to new students who have not been who were not a part of the summit last year. So overall, I'm looking forward to the summit this year and also working with Roma to teach her more about the position and getting ready for next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carney?
We have a lot to cover today, so I'll forego my report.
Okay. Mrs. Weaver?
On Saturday, I attended the Skills USA. That Skills USA is held at the Tech Center, and the different classes, such as, let's say, diesel or the computer networking or the health services, they have a competition, and it's the competition in the southern area. So it's Charles County, Calvert, and St. Mary's County. And they come and, they have different competitions, and they're graded. And then from there, whoever has the top grades then goes on to states and the nationals. Now, I know they said last year that our tech center had someone who won nationals and someone that came in second, which is fantastic. So on Saturday, I got up early, and I was there early along with numerous students to be a judge for the health health services. Had a great time, saw a lot of people that I've worked with in the past from St. Mary's Hospital. They also got up early and volunteered their time to be judges. So it was great to be with the students and see what they're learning. I was with the health services, so I had the hand washing station. And believe it or not, there's like numerous steps that they got graded on for proper hand washing. They also had urine measurement, but they used colored water, so that was not real. They had where they were doing CPR, choking, a choking victim, just a lot. Linen bed making, proper bed making, and how to dispose of the linen. But it was, and also, of course, the blood pressure and, the basics of those. But it was a great time. It was great to see what the students are learning, and get to talk to them, too, about their future goals and careers. So, and I want to thank all my former co-workers from St. Mary's Hospital for taking the time to come out and to do that, and all the other people that did take their time to go to the different areas to be judges. That's it.
I had the great pleasure of chaperoning, or really running the candy and soda lines at the Margaret Brent Winter Formal a few Fridays ago. That being said, I am going to, as we go through the budget and everyone starts talking about salaries and extra work, pay for extra duty and extra work and how many hours teachers and staff and everyone puts in, I am going to publicly thank all of the staff and students and custodians and everyone across all of the schools, because as you look through a lot of the school activities over the past month and a half, even with the blizzard, there have been a lot of after-school activities. And they are teachers that are taking their time after their school day, who are running intramural programs at various sites, that are holding dances. I mean, we finished cleaning up at Margaret Brent at 10 o'clock at night, and those teachers had been there since 7 o'clock that morning. And I'm only pointing out that school because I was there. I know Dinard had a dad and daughter dance last weekend. Same thing, I'm sure, happened. And then in concert with that are all of the PTAs at all of the schools. The amount of fundraising that they do, once again, as we go through the budget, and the amount of money that they throw back into the schools that I think sometimes we appreciate but is not widely recognized, it just needs to be brought forward. There are a lot of parents who aren't even involved in these organizations that come out to help. And I was actually talking with one of the PTA presidents, and when she was taking tickets for one of the dances, there was one child that he was kind of on the outskirts of everything, but he was so excited to be there, and he was there with his friends, and and it's things like that, I think, that sometimes get lost in the test scores and the budget numbers and the contract negotiations and all of that. But there are a lot of people within this community and within the schools that help children. And I just think that needs to be recognized and brought forward. So, thank you. Ms. Washington?
Thank you. I've had a wonderful time visiting elementary schools and reading to students. And this is one of the books in my collection that I read to students. It is called Each Kindness by Jacqueline Woodson. And I like to talk about character education because that is a focus of what we do in our school system. Education is important, and reading, writing, and all of that is important. But what's more important is develop students with good character. This story is about a girl who came to school. Her clothes were tattered and torn. A button was missing off her coat, and she was wearing a spring dress in the wintertime and spring shoes. And none of the students wanted to play with her. They laughed at her, and they convinced other students not to play with her. And the girl continued to be nice to these students, even though they treated her that way. And then one day the teacher talked about kindness. And she got a bowl of water, and she gave each of the students a stone. And she asked them to drop the stone in the water. And she said, this is what kindness does. When they dropped the stone in, the water rippled out and away, out and away. So each act of kindness that we do or kindness that we do not do, has a ripple effect throughout the entire world. And we talked about, and the saying I really like is, this what kindness does. Each little thing we do goes out like a ripple into the world. This is what kindness does. Each little thing we do goes out like a ripple into the world. And another one was, each kindness makes the whole world a little bit better. So that's what we talked about. This is just one of the books in my collection, and the students really enjoyed the book. And they're gonna get the water and the stone and make the ripple, so you can see how your kindness, done or undone, has a ripple throughout the world. Thank you.
I recently attended 2 different meetings at MABE. One was the legislative meeting, and the second was the conference planning meeting. Functioning as a board member, it's not just 2 meetings a month. There are a lot of other things that we do. And because so much legislation has a significant impact on our school system, on our students, on our staff, we're fairly actively involved at MABE, keeping track of that legislation, and MABE goes and testifies on our behalf as legislation comes forward that will impact us positively or negatively. And on this coming Friday, MABE is doing its annual legislative luncheon in Annapolis, and members of the board and the superintendent will be in attendance there. It gives us an opportunity to speak personally with the members of our local delegation so that they understand the ramifications of some of the things that come forward to them that may seem at first blush a no-brainer, a wonderful idea, and yet when you begin to look at the cost, personnel cost, budgetary cost, it can be much more significant. And I look forward to that opportunity to spend some time there and to share our thoughts about the legislation that is coming forward. So, thank you.
Thank you. Talk about ripples.
Yes.
Every pebble in a pond. So, I had the joy of joining the Lexington Park Rotary group last week and to thank them for their continuation of dictionaries for 3rd grade students. They will be handing out, they've already handed out several hundred, and they'll hand out several hundred more, over 700 dictionaries to 3rd grade kids throughout the Lexington Park area. It was really, it was a great lunch, great opportunity to thank those people, our community partners, who continue to show support for the work of our teachers and the efforts and achievement of our students. I went to the school counselor PD meeting where all the counselors all get together, and it was Counselor Appreciation Counselor Week, School Counselor Week last week. It was great. They all got stress balls. Ms. Montgomery and I listened to them. Really, they bring forth their own. It's a professional development meeting for counselors to talk about things that are going on in their schools and with their profession. And it's driven by the counselors themselves. And one of the things they were really talking about is the upcoming information evenings to get our 8th grade students oriented for the rigors of high school. We had an ANS session at Moakley Street where we were joined by Captain Aliato from the Sheriff's Department and Kathleen O'Brien from Walden to talk about drug abuse and misuse and the things that we need to be aware of and how the school system can be a really good community partner on that. I did a classroom observation at Chopscon High School with Lindsay Robertson and her visual arts class, and we talked about, she had tempera paint, and we were doing wet on wet and wet on dry and blending, and it was really great. It was great to see kids engaged and actively enjoying the class. Pazam was on Friday. I also was at the regional competition at the Forest Center in the afternoon. We had over 250 students there competing in the Tri-County area. We ended up taking home, not to brag on us, but let me see, we took 11 gold, 9 bronze, or 12 bronze and 9 silver, so we did very, very well. Obviously, regionals roll up to states, states roll up to nationals, nationals cost money. They were doing a silent auction. I think they raised about $1,300 in the silent auction that was all coordinated by parents who who were there as early as 5:30 in the morning, as well as staff. So I echo Ms. Weaver. First of all, Ms. Weaver, thank you very much for your personal participation, and thank you very much for drawing attention to all those people who work with our children every single day and even on weekends. Last is I went to yesterday I was down at Great Mills High School in Alan Skinner's STEM engineering class where they were doing coding and programming for iRobots, and I had the pleasure of spending some time with Miss Kincaria and welcoming her and saying that she has very big shoes to fill. Not big, but appropriately big, just the right. She is really excited. She seems to be just a delightful person. I think she's going to carry on the work that you have started so very well. We talked about the Students Advisory Committee and how we kind of brought that through, and so she's excited. And I think she'll be with us at the next meeting, so that'll be fantastic. So it's been a lot of fun. We opened on time today. We still have 2 snow days left. If we keep them in the bank, we get to get out earlier in June, so we're gonna hold on to those tightly. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, public comment. I got the secret sign that there's none. Okay. All right. Not that I was not listening very intently to your report, Mr. Secretary.
Oh, come on. I know.
All right, next up is the consent agenda. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and then first on our action item list is the 2016-2017 operating calendars.
Good
Dr.
morning.
Ridgel.
Dr. Ridgel.
And as he's coming forward, interestingly enough, there is a bill being proposed by folks in Montgomery County to give school systems the option of being open on the Monday following Easter. So I will keep you updated as to where that bill is and its success.
Today, then, is the second reading. The first reading was on January 13th. The public hearing was on January 27th. There were no speakers at that public hearing. We also had the calendar on the website. We did receive 3 emails related to it. All 3 were very similar in requesting longer summer vacations. Neither of the 3 were residents of St. Mary's County. All 3 actually were residents of the Eastern Shore counties and their school system in that. So I bring to you then today for second reading and the request for approval for the calendar. As a reminder, there are many representatives from many different stakeholders that go into serving on the committee to develop the calendar for the school year, including students and parents and representatives of the different associations. The calendar put forth meets all of the requirements in terms of the number of days, hours, testing. Does provide time, again, as we talked about professional development for the teachers, time for teachers to be able to do those professional responsibilities like collaborative planning, interims, marking period grades, and so forth. Does provide time for parent involvement activities such as the conference day and the Head Start and pre-K activities. It keeps that Wednesday start date and does include closing for all of the currently state mandated holidays. It bills in 4 days before the school year for both the charter school and the school system for teachers to have professional development as well as setting up and preparing their classrooms. So it would put the opening day of school for the charter school on August the 10th, the school system Wednesday, August the 24th. We would then close on Labor Day, September 5th. We would have school-based professional development on Friday, September the 23rd. That is the day also of the county fair where many students and staff are participating in the things like the parade, band concerts, and so forth. Then the conference day for that parent involvement would be the same as Columbus Day, Monday, October 10th. We would close for the MSEA convention on Friday, October the 21st. We would, because it's a general election, we are required to close on Tuesday, November the 8th. Tough thing is, this does back up in the same week as Veterans Day, Friday, November the 11th, but Veterans Day, schools in St. Mary's close. Thanksgiving then would be that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, November 23rd, 24th, and 25th, reopening on Monday, November the 28th. Because of where December the 25th falls in the calendar, it would be a shorter winter break than we have had this past year. We would close the school system on December the 23rd. The charter school would close December 21st. Both charter school and the school system would reopen on Monday, January 3rd. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday is one of the days we close, January 16th. The professional day, system-wide, and the end of the first semester would be January 27th. President's Day, we would close on Monday, February the 20th for next year. Spring break would remain the same number of days, in April the 10th through the 17th, with school opening on April the 18th. Articulation Day, Professional Day, days for the school system to have collaborative planning would be Friday, April the 28th. For the charter school, it will not be until June 14th after school has closed for students. This, of course, can be an inclement weather makeup day in the event we go over the 5. Memorial Day, then May 29th. Dates are then set for collaborative planning for both the school system and the charter school. The Head Start and Pre-K parent involvement activities would fall on these dates. Early dismissals for the narrative report cards at the charter school, because their report cards are on a different calendar than ours, then their dates are different. So January 12th, 13th, and then May 24th, 25th. The charter school, since they opened 2 weeks early, also has an October recess and a February recess. The last day for students, then, including the 5 built-in days, as Mr. Smith just talked about, for inclement weather, that we would back out in the event we did not need them. The school system would be June 15th. Early dismissals on the last 3 days, June 13th, 14th, and 15th. The charter school would close on June the 13th, but only 2 early dismissal days at the end of the year, June 12th and June 13th. The last day for teachers then for the school system would be Friday, June 16th. For the charter school, Thursday, June 15th. So the recommendation is request for you to approve the St. Mary's County Public Schools and Chesapeake Public Charter Schools calendars as presented. Any questions?
Ms. Lilly?
No questions, thank you.
No questions.
No questions.
Nothing.
Very good job.
The only 2 counties that are interested in going to school after Labor Day in a straw vote at MABE were 2 far eastern shore counties, including Ocean City area. So there's not widespread interest at all. Thank you for the calendar. I appreciate it.
Do I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approve the St. Mary's County Public Schools and Chesapeake Public Charter School calendars as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Marr,
Good morning.
High School Program of Studies.
Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm here again for the second reading for action for the program of studies. This was presented last month, and as we reviewed at the time in January, the proposals are presented throughout the summer and fall. We have a fall review. We've had community input, parent representatives, student representatives, and committee meetings that have reviewed the process as well. We also had the public comment at the last board meeting, at which time we received zero public comment during that hearing. So this is really a reiteration of what was presented to you last month. And this morning, later on in this meeting, we're going to be talking about the Rising Freshman Nights, where we will be reviewing with our rising ninth graders the high school program of studies. And this chart features in that presentation as well, because it outlines those 21 credits that are required for a Maryland high school diploma. And so as we look at it, what is communicated in the program of studies is those 21 credits as part of the core requirements that Maryland has, which includes your English, social studies, math, science, physical education, the technology education requirement, which was the Foundations of Technology class, but also now includes computer science as an option, fine arts credit, as well as the elective credits, which include world language, or advanced technology sequence, or CTE program for those 4 credits. And so this is part of that presentation we will be presenting. And so, as you know, students have to enroll in a course of study in those 21 credits, as well as selecting a program completer path. So as we look at our program of studies, we go through and revise the course descriptions. We try to clarify requirements for students, and we also look at new courses that help students with their particular course of study. And so, as we presented last month, these are the new courses that are presented for your approval. We have 2 courses that will help round out the program for the CASE program, which was introduced last year. And so these are the second 2 courses to round out that completer program. That is Principles in Agricultural Science for focusing on plants. And then the final course is that which focuses on animals. Those would round out that completer sequence. We also are recommending the inclusion of a cybersecurity course, which provides enhancement to the Network Academy sequence, but also provides an elective opportunity in computer science. And we talked about the importance last month about having a program in cybersecurity. The next course looks at providing additional opportunities to ensure that our students are college and career ready. And as you know, we have mathematics courses right now that are dual enrollment courses. This will provide an opportunity for students to have a dual enrollment English class on our campus that they will complete. Upon completion of the course, they can also earn 3 credits in English 1010 at CSM. This is a program that is being implemented across our surrounding counties in Charles and Calvert, and so we have learned from them about the curriculum and how to make it fit within our sequence as well. We also presented last month the addition of the Performance Troupe course at Chopticon High School in their Academy of Visual and Performing Arts. As you know, when we presented the sequence for the Academy of Visual and Performing Arts a couple of years ago, we talked about adding Theater 5. This clarifies that course, and we talked about it as a sort of a cross-disciplinary course that includes both the choral, choreography, as well as the theater aspects. And then the final course we're recommending for inclusion is GIS 1, which is Human Geography and International Relations. This course would really be a tailored course to get students introduced in their 9th grade year in the GIS program. And so that would be their social studies course in that first year. We are also recommending some revised course descriptions and prerequisite changes. So last month, Mr. Hayes presented to you the revised Maryland Standards for Science that really asked us to look closely at how we deliver the courses and the sequence of those courses. So some of our prerequisites and our course sequences changed, so as did those descriptions. In AP Physics and Physics 1, the prerequisite clarifies the mathematical competencies required for those courses as well. We also have course descriptions and prerequisite changes for those that are really clarified for those 2 CTE courses as well. Looking at our description changes in CTE, the Foundations of Computer Science has a clarification that it also meets the Foundations of Technology requirement, which is part of that list of 16 that I had at the first slide. The Computer Science Principles is really aligned with the AP course, so we're creating that as an AP science course. The Automotive Technology and the HVAC courses really clarify the inclusion of that mathematics credit as that part of that concluding course. And the ROTC courses descriptions are clarified as well. In English, the descriptions really are offering options more for students in those 2 AP courses that are now being offered. We're recommending that they be offered in either sequence of 11th or 12th grade, rather than very specifically tailoring one to one grade or over another, which gives our students some more choices as they look at their own path to college. Science, again, the course descriptions were revised for Earth and Space Science to align with the Maryland Science Standards, and the STEM chemistry was revised based on the content that's being taught now in that course sequence. In practical mathematics, the course description was really revised to clarify that it is designed as a grade 12 course. We have some courses. The first two have not been enrolled, and so we are removing those from the program of studies. And then the exploration of science, that course, as was presented by Mr. Hayes last month, is not aligned to the next generation science standards, so that course is being removed as well. So with those recommendations, we're asking for your approval for the high school program of studies for 2016-2017 as presented.
Any questions?
No questions, thank you.
It looks like our students have quite a variety and a very robust curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one thing for you to clarify to parents out there, because I've had quite a few parents come to me and say, well, about the math course, well, do they need 3, do they need 4? And I do go through and explain that to them, but could you just reiterate why some people only are taking 3 and some are 4?
All students, and this was actually part of the College and Career Readiness Act of 2013 that was passed by the Maryland legislature as well. We had already had this process in place for 2 years prior to that. But what the requirement is that students have to be enrolled in a math class every year through high school. They have to have earned a minimum of 3 credits in that enrollment time, but have to be in a math class every year of enrollment for high school. For students that are on the university of pathway, we saw those pathways at the beginning, those courses, those students have to have 4 credits earned in high school, and the final course in their senior year has to be at least at Algebra 2 or non-trivial algebra in that senior year. So there's that requirement for that particular pathway. And as you notice too, we've embedded mathematics credits into some of those CTE programs too, which also provide students and have it as a requirement that they earn those credits as part of that completer sequence as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions, Mrs. Washington?
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Allen?
No questions.
All right. With that, do I have a motion to approve the high school program of studies?
I recommend that the Board of Education approve the high school program of studies revisions for 2016-2017 as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Millar.
Procurement of custodial equipment. Next up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Varner.
The Operations Department finds itself in a position and a need to spend beyond the $25,000 threshold this year to repair our custodial equipment in all of our schools and offices. I'm here to request your approval to do so. A little bit of background information first. We currently procure custodial equipment, supplies, services from a variety of vendors. This particular contract is through Citigroup Incorporated, one of our trusted vendors. They provide us with a lot of high-quality goods, services, advice and training. Through Citigroup, we actually work off of 5 separate contract vehicles. 2 of these are our contracts in which we procure cleaning and restroom supplies. 3 of which are through other entities. The one highlighted here is the contract through Frederick County that covers the servicing, labor, and parts for our custodial equipment repair. As I mentioned, we've reached the threshold in spending on that contract. We do have funds budgeted in our budget to continue to spend to repair our equipment. And to sum up, I'm asking for your approval to spend past the $25,000 threshold on custodial equipment repair. Any questions?
Ms. Lee?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Carney?
What type of equipment falls under this category?
Basically, all of our equipment, floor scrubbers, buffers, propane buffers, vacuum cleaners, anything that we use to prepare the educational environment.
Thank you.
Ms. Reagan?
Okay, now, I did do research and found that I think there was like 5 or maybe 6 companies that did this, and they were all above the Baltimore area. So that being said, I know the travel charge is open, and I know because of the gas prices, whether they're up or down. This past year, do you know kind of like the average that you spent, like as far as like travel costs, just to even bring someone down here, because it does not have a flat fee?
Off the top of my head, I don't have that separated. I don't know if you have that information.
I don't, but I just want to say, one of the benefits of this particular contract is while we do pay for travel time for the vendor, we have to pay for them to come down and pick up our equipment and take it back to their shop to repair it, and then we pay the labor rates while it's being repaired. But sometimes we can gather all of our broken equipment together in one location and have the technicians travel here and repair the equipment. So it depends on what the repairs are, whether or not we would spend a lot on travel or less on travel.
We actually have a mobile unit at the DSS campus that's kind of like a workshop for this tech. They come down, we collect everything that needs repaired,
Okay.
have all the appropriate paperwork there, and they come down and repair that. For some of our larger machines that are a little bit more problematic to move in and out of facilities, they do make site visits.
Okay.
Citigroup does have an office and a shop in Upper Marlboro, so they're traveling from there.
Okay. And what has been your response for these people, like when you call them? Is it pretty well received? So like you say, look, I have this equipment. Are you waiting like say 2-3 weeks for them to come down? Or is it, basically like the response time? I mean, are you kind of put off to the side because we're all the way down here, or?
Not really. They're pretty responsive when we have an emergency, but we have a standing, every Thursday they come down and they're working in that shop repairing equipment.
okay.
So we have a standing visit, but they will come down if we ask them to, more frequent than that.
Okay. All right, thank you.
On the bid, there were different price points, whether it was a large or medium-sized piece of equipment. Is there some list, I'm sure there's some standard as to what is considered large and what is considered medium, and it's not subjective to the contractor, correct?
No, I don't believe that's true.
Okay. Okay. Ms. Washington?
Okay, thank you. No questions.
Ms. Zhang?
My questions have been answered, thank you.
All right, and with that, may I have a motion for this action item?
I move that the Board of Education of St. Mary's County approve the use of the Frederick County Public Schools unit price contract for repair services for custodial equipment, contract number 13M8, to procure the necessary parts and labor to repair custodial equipment up to $40,000 per year throughout the duration of the contract, which will expire on February 28th, 2017, with no renewal options.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Mr. Howard? Smart Board Technology.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Howard.
Okay. I'm here today to ask for the approval to purchase some smart interactive boards to go into some elementary schools. Oh, where is it? Where did that come from?
Or you can talk about the budget, if you want to, that's.
No,
we'll start a little
sir,
early.
I'll
Let's
leave
get
that
work
to you,
session.
Mr. Smith.
Wonder where we were going.
Yeah, let's see, where did I put that? I'm sorry. I think that's the action item. Yeah, how did that get there? I pulled that up. Yeah, that's the action item. Give me 1 second, excuse me. I'll find this real quick. There it is. The good old download folder. Let's see, slideshow from the beginning. There we go.
All right.
Thanks. Scott, you started a trend today with
Yeah.
spilling the coffee,
I
or
guess.
the soda.
So I'll go a little, hey, mine's not on tape, though.
Oh, thank you.
So again,
There's
it
still
never happened.
I deserve that, thank you. Okay. We have begun the installation of technology equipment in the elementary schools, and as part of this process, it's a site visit with the principals and like media specialists and their key technology personnel. And during those discussions, not everyone's using the Promethean boards and Epson projectors, so if we continue to put that technology in schools, it's going to be a whole learning curve. So what we decided to do was to go out and solicit some bids to bring in some smart interactive technology. Some of the smart interactive boards that are in the schools right now are running on their 6th year plus, and we're seeing higher failure rates. We've been able to send some out for repairs, but it really is disruptive to the classroom when they're not fully operational. Okay, so working with the procurement office and using the Maryland Educational Enterprise Consortium agreement that we've used before, MEEC, the audiovisual contract, we solicited some bids, and of the results, we had 5 vendors respond to our RFP, and the lowest vendor was Audiovisual Innovations, AVI. We've dealt with them in the past. The total cost for the 20 units with accessories, that's like the sound bar, mounting hardware, the board, and the projector, came in at $50,077.80. So I'm here to ask for the approval of the bid we did to AVI in that amount. Any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Carney?
The question I have would be that is there any issues if we put these into classrooms that Title I areas where we use Title I dollars to buy such equipment, it doesn't look like a backdoor that we're now using funds and the Title I schools no longer have the plus-ups.
As in using Title I funds to help purchase the boards?
No, you're not
Okay.
using Title I, you're using your regular funds.
Correct.
But the Title I schools were able to buy them using Title I dollars to give them a plus up.
Okay.
Now we're increasing these, and it seems like that advantage at the Title I schools is being erased.
Ms. Hall here. From my experience, we have not been purchasing a lot of technology in the last few years using Title I for smart boards, because I think our standard is we're having a interactive board in every classroom. Scott, is that?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to go back and take a look at, as we standardize the technology in every single one of the classrooms. Obviously, if we were going to use Title I funds to replace and do work at the Title I schools, that would be considered supplanting of a sort. I'm not exactly sure, from this point forward, when we go and we do purchasing for the Title I schools, we'd have to take a look at each one of the individual purchases. I don't know that we'd be going back and doing any harm with what's already there. That's a very good question. I guess I'm gonna have to get more information from Mrs. Hall. I don't believe that we run the risk of supplanting it by upgrading the other systems in the other schools.
Thank you.
Now, are these smart boards the same type that are currently in the schools?
They're the newer models, they are, but they're still having the projector and the board. It's not like the ones that are at Duke necessarily, the Prometheans that are, flat panel. It's still the basic technology, same software works.
Okay, and the life expectancy of these are about 5 or 6 years?
I was doing some research after that question came up, and a lot of them, even with our experience, 6 years is, you start seeing higher failure rates, but until I think the technology drastically changes, we can push that probably to about 7, where we need to really start replacing them at a certain level, maybe a 15 to 20%. After 5 years would be a good budgetary number.
And the warranty period?
3 years.
Okay, and does that cover, pretty much them coming in and, what are you doing down there?
He's discovering that this morning that didn't happen may have had some impact that
kill it.
we're just now discovering.
All right, Scott, see, you jinxed yourself.
Mrs. Allen and I will be sharing a microphone,
I'm good at sharing.
or I'll have little to say, which is probably for the better.
As far as the warranty, so is that for them to replace an entire smart board if it is, like, I guess like something is weird going on with it, or is that just to do the basic
To
replacements?
do the
or-
basic part replacement.
Okay. All right,
Thanks.
that's it, thank you.
To Mr. Carney's point, I think, and someone correct me, but I think the smart boards are primarily used in the lower grades, in the
Correct.
pre-K and kindergarten, because it's more interactive, which I think is, whereas the Promethean boards are, they're just flat screen and here's the stuff that's on them. So I think that's why,
Well,
They're-
it's to the individual request of the school and the classroom
Right.
and the teacher.
right. And then my only question on the bid is are the shipping costs loaded in
Yeah.
the,
That's part of the MEEC contract.
okay, all right, because I know that just can grow exponentially based on the number
Exactly.
that you purchase. So, okay, all right, thank you.
Where would the 20 boards be distributed?
They're going to go to schools that are mostly smart only, and the rest are going to be used for replacements of failed ones as we go through this project. We're about 40% of the way on the elementary school upgrade project, which I'm glad to say. So we're hoping to have that completed well before school's out this year.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Smith, it'd be nice to have a board update to understand which schools have smart boards, which
Okay.
schools have Promethean boards, at what level they're being used, and kind of the age, so we understand, are we gonna have some big gaps we're gonna have to be filling as you're going through this replenishment project? And do we have schools where we'd like to see smart boards and they're not currently offered in, whether it's a classroom or grade level or quite what?
Yeah, that sounds something we can definitely do
And
for you.
I don't expect it to be, like a major
Sure.
report, just, just some general understanding of where we are, where we need to be going, and what it looks like.
Great.
And Mrs. Bailey asked earlier in the week for a communication update on the overall deployment of the technologies that we're putting into the elementary school, so this will just be an addendum to that.
Great.
Great, that'd be wonderful. Thank you very much.
Right, I think across the elementary schools, at least from what I've seen, is that the only classrooms that do not have any technology are the specials, like music, art, and I know the music teachers make a big push for it.
Right.
But I think almost every classroom probably has one. If it wasn't purchased by the school system, then I think, once
Through
again, back
other
to my point, the
creative-
PTAs
right.
were backfilling and buying them.
Right.
So,
Okay.
all right, thank you. Anything else? Okay, then with that, do I have a motion for this action item?
I move that the Board of Education of St. Mary's County approve the purchase of 20 smart boards and accessories for elementary schools for a total cost of $50,077.80 from the Audio Visual Innovations AVI SPL. Further, that the board approves the use of this unit price RFQ for the purchase of additional smart boards and accessories on an as-needed basis as funding permits for purchases under $25,000. If additional equipment is required in excess of $25,000, that staff will request further board approval to continue use of this contract.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just rolling right into the telecommunication upgrade.
Not the budget.
Not the budget, right?
Okay, thanks. And this presentation is going to be on the upgrade needed for our Avaya telephone system. Okay. ITS is finalizing the final phase of the Voice over Internet Protocol system, and part of that project is required to upgrade to the latest software version for the manufacturer. And this new version actually has us to the point where we can only support 1,000 handsets, telephones, throughout the whole system. So we cannot complete phase 2 until we actually do this upgrade to our phone system. And the new ceiling will be 3,000 phones, and I don't see us ever getting to that, but at least we're not going to have to go through a major upgrade like this again. It also has, right now, our current version has a limit of 32 sites, and we have actually reached that too. So this will give us now a cap of 150. The design will also allow for a failover capability, and that will be something we're going to work on for the start of next school year, to actually have it where we can test it. If one building goes down, the other system will pick up. And as we know, voice is a very important part of emergency response. It also allows us to do a Meet Me conference feature, which can support up to 512 ports. So.
It's a big meeting.
Well, we'll be able to actually have this amongst ourselves internally, but we're not going to be able to support 500 inbound, outbound calls.
Right.
And once we're completed with this phase, we'll be able to do 5-digit dialing to all of our locations, which I think will make life a lot easier for all of us. Okay. And we used our existing contract, or a contract that we used before, the Virginia Information of Technology Agency, the VITA contract, from Carousel Industries. The upgrade is in the amount of $49,590.60. We've been using Carousel Industries since we went to this phone system, and they have provided really good service for us. So there's no big major change. The same technician has been the one that we requested, and my staff works really well with them, so we have the utmost confidence that this will work well. Okay. Any questions I can answer on this?
Ms. Lee?
Oh, no questions, thank you.
Mr. Carney?
Is this a one-time charge, or is there a follow-on maintenance charge or whatever?
The maintenance charge is not, from where we are paying now, it's going to be a little bit of a couple $1,000s reoccurring, but it's like the first 13 months are often included in the original purchase. We pay maintenance and software maintenance as part of that, but we have budgeted enough to cover these expenses.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Weaver?
No questions.
I have no questions. Thank you very much.
I like the Meet Me conference feature.
Great.
I think that can save us a lot of time and money. And we have the added capacity where we reach 32, so we need it. Thank you.
Mrs. Allen?
How has the reliability of the system been? I know that MABE went from using Verizon as a provider to Voice over Internet Protocol system, and they found that their call quality went down, that they were experiencing a lot of failures, that they were experiencing dropped calls, but also constant busies, and they've now had to go back to Verizon.
Really? My experience has actually been the opposite when we go from, because when you're dealing with a lot of the Verizon systems, you're dealing with a lot of the old copper plant, and I'm sure people have driven down the roads and you're actually seeing one of their boxes or a technician out on the roadside, and sometimes they're not even secured properly. When the weather will often affect copper connectivity. This is all based on fiber, using our own fiber optic backbone between all the sites. We've been using it for years now. I think this original one was in 2013. We had a little hiccup on the server yesterday on the phone system, but it's working. I think we had a couple handsets here, but I have not seen a significant fail rate.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Okay, and with that, I'm seeking a motion.
I move that the Board of Education of St. Mary's County approve the purchase of upgraded server software installation and support for the AVEA Voice over Internet Protocol telecommunications system utilizing the Virginia Information Technology Agency VITA contract, VA 110418 CRSL from Carousel Industries in the amount of $49,590.60.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
We had our teaser from Dr. Mars, so now we are on the Rising Freshman Orientation Nights.
Well, hello again.
Hello.
And I am joined at the podium here with Ms. Denise Mandis, who is our Supervisor of Instruction for Academy Programs and Advanced Placement, and she'll be joining in the presentation to talk about the application process for our academies, which is also opens up at about the same time as the Rising Freshman Information Nights. And so we are looking at, brace yourself, the class of 2020 that will be entering our doors as freshmen next year. And so each year we hold a series of information nights at the 3 high schools to provide some information to those 8th graders rising to 9th graders so that they understand the course selection process, they understand the choices that are available to them, and they also understand that goal of what they need for graduation. So we have 3 nights set aside. They are a similar agenda at each of the 3 sites. That is, we're going to give an overview of the high school graduation requirements, an overview of the course selection process, an overview of the high school program of studies so that they know how to navigate to look at the different choices that we've talked about here this morning. And then we have breakout sessions to look at the different academy programs and the choice programs that are offered to them when they come into high school. So our first one is scheduled for Tuesday, March 15th at Chopticon High School. The second one will be the next night at Leonardtown High School, March 16th, and the third one will be at Great Mills High School on Thursday, March 17th. Of course, you all are invited, as is our parents and families of students who are rising to be 9th graders. They all begin at 6 p.m. So let's take a little bit of walk through what the overview of these graduation requirements look like. What does it take to earn a Maryland high school diploma? It is about those next 4 years for our freshmen. And simply put, it takes 21 credits to earn a Maryland high school diploma. Now, there are some requirements for what those 21 credits include. And if you do a little bit of math, most students have a full schedule of 7 classes every day for 4 years. So most of them walk out with 28 credits and far exceed those minimum requirements for graduation. And so to reiterate what I said earlier, we go over with our students what those requirements are. They include those 21 credits as are defined here. We review that with them so they understand how to scope out their sequence of courses, as well as helping them to understand that there's lots of room for elective and choice programs within that. So as I said, most of them take 28 credits to in their path. Some of them earn credits in middle school as well. So there's a lot of opportunities for students to have some choices. We review this. We actually present this part of it in chunks so that they're not looking at a really busy slide here. But we go over each one of these elements with our students as well, so they understand what it is that they have to do to plan their course of study. So if they look at that core program of studies, they look at if they're going to do a CTE pathway or a university system pathway, the different requirements for each one of those. We also introduce them to the array of programs and help them to understand that they they have the opportunity to make some choices. So if they're looking at the university pathway, they can understand the Certificate of Merit courses as well as the advanced placement courses that are available at all of our high schools. They have an opportunity to look at the CTE pathway and all of the different options that are available both at the home high schools as well as the 21 different offerings that are available at the Dr. James A. Forrest Career and Technology Center. We explain the differences in the academy programs. And I know I'm going through this rather fast with you, but we spend a little time with our students and have some interactive time for questions and answers with them as well. Overview what the academy programs are, as well as introduce the opportunities for them for dual enrollment, that in their 11th and 12th grade year they can be earning credit at college, not just with AP courses, but also with dual enrollment programs through the College of Southern Maryland. For most of them, the most immediate need is looking at 9th grade. What are the courses they need to schedule as they cross over to from their middle school to high school years? And so, as we know, they all have to take an English, a mathematics, a science, and a social studies course. We then break down those courses based on, if you're in this course as an 8th grader, these are the 2 or 3 different courses that you can then take in those subject areas as a 9th grader. We also look at the different requirements and options that they have. With those, as I showed here, they have 7 courses that they have in their schedule. So that means 3 of them they get a lot of choice to make. And so many of them choose these first 3. They choose to have these requirements taken care of in their 9th grade year. That they either sign up for a technology course. In the past, it was the Foundations of Technology was the option. Now they have computer science options as well. Many of them sign up and take their PE and health credit in their 9th grade year, and many of them may sign up for their fine arts credit as well. But what they do see is that there are a multitude of options for them in those areas. Some of them may also choose to have a world language or a junior ROTC program, either if they're attending Great Mills High School or Chopticon, where those programs are offered. The next thing we do is we walk them through the course selection process, and that'll begin for many of our middle school students at around the end of the 3rd quarter. As they close out that marking period after we get back from spring break, they start to meet with their counselors, with their teachers to make those course recommendations. Once those teachers have made those recommendations, counselors meet individually with 8th grade students to review their schedule, their course selections. The schedules are not actually made until they're sent to the high school and done over the summer, but they review with them what those courses are that they're selecting. Course requests are made available for parents as well, so that they have input into the process, and those requests are then put into our student information system so that the high schools have those courses that are sent to them. We provide a lot of information on our website, and so you can see when students, parents, there's actually multiple ways to get into the information. We have it linked in several places. One place directly is on the schools tab, but they could also get to some of this information on when they click students or parents, because we find that depending on how they're thinking of how they're going to get in the door, we want to still make sure that they get to the right place. So in academics, if they go to students, for example, it then links right to the program of studies, and following your approval this morning, we'll be able to revise our 2016-17 document and put it up here. Right now, the program of studies, if they click on that link, it goes to the last 5 years program of studies, so they could actually see how that has evolved over years. And that document can be downloaded as PDF. It can be viewed online for looking at their course selections as well. For our rising 9th graders, the counselors often provide for them a much more condensed version of what those options are as 9th graders, because 150 pages is a lot to go through. So this way they can really, again, specify what courses are available for 9th graders. Students and parents can also go to, when they click on the schools tab, and go to our various high school links where they have information about specific programs there. And here's where I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Mandis, who will talk about our academies and our the resources that are there for each one of those pathways, which again is also linked under that schools tab. So, Ms. Mandis.
So, good morning.
Good morning, Mrs. Mandis. You were so good standing there. You're just perfect.
Smiling.
Yes.
So the academy pages have been set up. Each of the 4 academies, the format mirrors one another. So any of the 4 academies, they're going to look very similar. They'll have an overview of what the academy entails, a link to the brochure where students and parents can see the scope and sequence for the 4 high school years, what courses are required for the academy, and where they have some choice. And then there's also a link to a short video where they can see the teachers, the students, and kind of the program in action. Right next to brochure on the right-hand side, once our academy application process opens, there will also be a similar button that will say apply here. So students can apply right online. Mr. Brooks and I have talked about having that in a myriad of places so that it is easy to find and that the application process is simplified. So you can get to the academies and pathways under the schools tab, but students and parents can also get there under academies and pathways under the academics tab. So again, kind of doubling that up so to ease the process there. The application process has been advertised, so it is advertised as opening in the beginning of March. The application window will stay open until tax day. We decided April 15th was a good kind of memorable date, so 11:59 p.m. that will close. And if you go to our website too, again, there's more specific information under each of the 4 academy tabs. We also set up an email account, so we'll advertise this at all 3 Rising Freshman orientation nights, but this allows, it's kind of memorable, hey, I'm the class of 2020, that's who I email. If they have any questions, concerns, comments, dilemmas, queries, they can email that address. That will come directly to myself, and that way I can respond or direct it to the appropriate person. And then John Q. Public has a question, so. So again, just to reiterate the various options for our students, there's the STEM Academy, the National Academy of Finance, the James A. Forrest Career and Technology Center, the Academy of Visual Performing Arts, the Academy of Global International Studies, and Fairlead Academy as well. We intend to inform families and students of our decisions by May 25th, and that will also be publicized, it actually is on the website right now, that they will be notified of their decision, whether they are accepted or not, by that date. So we'll just kind of end there, just reminding them to visit our website. There is quite a bit of information there about the academy process, what criteria will be looked at for different academies. So we try to be as transparent as possible so that families and students can make the most informed decision about what academy is right for them and whether or not they want to apply. And so we'll just reiterate that with them. Our breakout sessions at each of the 3 Rising Freshman orientation nights, Dr. Marr will give his nice presentation and overview on here's how you graduate. And then for interested students, they'll have a chance to go to a separate location in that high school, and they'll be able to ask questions of the academy teachers and academy students as well. So we're going to make the students available because we've found that that really answers those. They better answer the questions. They don't want to hear it from us. They want to hear it from kids that live it and do it every day. And so in terms of organization, we have a great commitment from the teachers and the students in those academies, and they've already committed to coming out for those evenings. I think that's it. Questions?
Ms. Lee?
In encouraging rising freshmen to join after-school activities and clubs, will that be done during these rising freshman nights or more in the fall during the freshman open houses?
We're going to leave that decision to schools as to what clubs they want to advertise. We're going to send out an agenda to each of the 3 principals, and then they can modify that agenda to suit the availability of their specific schools, the club sponsors, et cetera. But then that information tends to be reiterated again in the fall. I have a feeling there'll be a lot more opportunity with some changes with the high school schedule for that as well.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
No questions.
Okay.
I like how that those tabs and things are much more user-friendly, and also putting the application right there so that people don't have to hunt, or a student doesn't have to keep going into the counselor and getting a piece of paper and forgetting to take it home.
Yeah.
You know, I just think this is a better process, and I do like the email that is more memorable doing it that way, you know.
It sticks.
Yeah.
And I did forget to mention, we are going to make PDF copies of the application available as well at each of the school sites, because we know that some of our students might not have access to internet or available technologies. And I have met with 2 of the 5 middle school 8th grade guidance counselors to really review the process in depth so that there's clarity and they know, oh, okay, if John doesn't have access, this is how I go about helping him apply, making sure he has access to it.
And one of the, if I could just jump in here.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you very much. One of the things as well, talking about access, so the school system webpage is completely accessible on a smartphone, as are the applications running through Cognito Forms. So in the event that you don't have a laptop computer at your disposal, you can go through, access all of the resources, and apply on a smartphone. And what we found is that children in high school have access to
Usually.
smartphones pretty consistently.
Yes.
Even Miss Lee. Thank you, sorry. Back over there.
I have a question for the application process to the Technology Center. Are there criteria for students who are applying, like grade point averages, things like that? And if so, is that also readily available?
Yes, actually, that's already
already open.
available, already
On the
open.
page.
As you know, that the Tech Expo that occurred
Right.
about 2 weeks ago, that's when that process opened up. And each one of those programs, depending on how the program is set up, has different criteria. And those are all specific to those different programs at the Forest Center.
Okay, and then for the programs at the Tech Center, where they're 2 or 1 year completer programs, are varying degrees of priority given based on what high school year they're in, I assume?
Yes, if obviously your seniors who need a program completer will be looked at very closely.
Okay.
The counselors work at each of the home high schools, work very closely with the counseling staff at the Forest Center as well to make sure that there's a good match for this program.
But that's all brought out during the orientation night at a breakout session, or
Yes.
just in case someone did not make it to the open house at the Tech Center?
Yes, absolutely. In fact,
Okay.
the Forest Center often has a very full room for their breakout
Right,
sessions.
that's what I figured, so, okay,
Yes.
okay, all right, thank you. Mr. Washington?
I agree with Mrs. Weaver that it's easy to follow and the format is colorful and it's user-friendly. Regarding the academies, the video, the brief video will be beneficial to the students, and applying online is a great idea. And just like they do at the Forest Center, where they have the students there at the individual programs, when they have the open house night, they talk about the program. That's a good way to let students know about the program. Instead of hearing it from the adults, they like to hear it from the students. And the email account is great, where any citizens have questions, they can address them to you and they'll get a response back. So how will the parents be prompted to know the application window for the academies? I mean, is this something gonna be on the website?
Oh, yes,
like blinking or flashing?
We're going
or-
to do a press release.
Okay.
In addition, on the home page where you have the bar that kind of, there's a technical name for that fancy thing, but that's going to also advertise that the academy window is open. And actually, on our website right now, if you go to the academy's pages, the dates are already advertised at the top. So we're also going to have, most of our principals do what we call an all-call out to families weekly, bi-weekly. That also will be communicated via Monday message, and principals will be encouraged to make an all-call as well. Back in November, even when we did our STEM Expo at the Tech Center, we had a sign-up sheet set up so that interested families could leave their email address. And then I've already emailed those families, hey, this is when the application window is going to open up, don't forget. So we're trying to communicate it in as many ways as we can.
Excellent, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Mrs. Allen?
How will this information be shared in the parochial schools and private schools so that students who may wish to transition into high school with us have the opportunities to do so?
That's an excellent question.
Go ahead, please.
We've actually already created flyers. They went to print shop and they've already been delivered to the parochial schools. So one of our staff members called and actually got numbers of 8th graders and how many they would need. So that's been communicated. Several of the parochial schools have also said that they will advertise it on their school websites as well. So they'll have a link as well. So definitely, and we're hoping with the press release, if it's in the enterprise or in local media, that will also bring awareness.
And with respect to rising ninth graders signing up for courses. Presumably, it's still a piece of paper that goes in. Are we working in the direction of being able to do this all online? Because there's so many opportunities for confusion or errors as that paper goes in and then is inputted.
The actual way that the schedules are now built is that the 8th grade teachers make recommendations in the Teacher Access Center for the individual students that roll up into an aggregate recommended schedule. The counselor sits down with the student to go through what the teachers have recommended and make choices. At that point, then, it's all in the system, and a printed copy is given to the child to go home, but it's already in the system. So the only thing that ever is printed out or goes back and forth is just a confirmation of what we've already entered into the
Okay,
Teacher Access
because
Center.
from my impression from what was presented was that it was actually taken and.
We had the slide that showed the TAC. We've had it. So the first time we did this, it was the class of 2012.
Wow.
So it's been 8 years that we've been doing this, and 2020 that just hurts. But yeah, and so we had kind of that was the first year that we started that process where we weren't sending a piece of paper home. The kids were filling it out. It was coming back, and they were entering it because, of course, we did find that there were always challenges with getting them back correctly.
No, what hurts is knowing what graduation date is for the pre-K students who are.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I don't even want to do that.
Add 12 to that, boy. That'll.
Well, and then the feedback that I received just from parents of 8th graders last year, I think once those schedules went home and the parents had an opportunity to look at it, then the response when they called, because they're like, why is my child in this? They need to be here, was very fast. I mean, it was a very quick response time, because sometimes they bypass the counselors and they called straight down here. So
What a great opportunity.
right, but I mean, so there, even though it still is paper and there's still a lot of moving of it around, it seems I didn't hear anyone complaining that my kid didn't get into this class and they should be here and not here.
The mechanisms behind the scenes to do all this, because we build every one of our high school master schedules are really built from scratch every single year, and that's over 5,000 kids with their individual requests. It's pretty interesting, and we'll actually get complete lists of all the kids who've signed up for all the courses, and then we'll actually have supervisors who go through the list to make sure that they're appropriately placed and make recommendations if they're not. And there's a lot of things that go on.
Any thought of putting a link to the proposed schedule in, or the proposed course sign up in HACC?
In HACC.
So that parents don't have to depend on their child bringing something home?
There is a module in HACC that we can turn on that says course requests, and we'll take a look at it. I looked at it 2 years ago, and 2 years ago it was a little buggy, but it might be better now with the new interface.
If it's been updated, that would be
great.
nice, because, it's sort of a one-stop shop for parents. So, thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Ms. McCourt, the January financial report.
Good afternoon, or good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's been a long day already. So as of January 31st, the revised budget is reflected at $202 million. Year-to-date revenues, $143 million, and the balance being $58 million. So we've received 71% of the revenues. I'd like to point out just one line on here, and that is the non-public placement tuition. We had budgeted $482,000, and we've received $991,000 to date, or 205% of the budget. Just in the month of January, we received the additional $509 million, and it's actually a reconciliation of the 2015. I'm sorry?
509,000.
Yes,
We
thank
would
you.
love to receive 509 million.
Yes, I appreciate the correction. It's a reconciliation of the 2015 actual cost for our non-public placements. So when we're building the budget, MSDE specifically tells us how much state aid monies that we will be receiving in the next year, but they don't include in that the protection for any reconciliation costs from the prior year. So we'll talk about that a little bit more later on today. On the expenditure side, we have encumbrances outstanding of $95 million, predominantly in the areas of salaries, $192 million for the encumbrances and expenses year-to-date, and an available balance of $9.9 million. We still have the same areas of concern, that being in the areas of special education that we've previously discussed for the non-public placement costs, in addition to health services. Both of those areas are within budget at this time, but we'll continue to monitor them and bring them to your attention as we go along if there are any additional concerns. Are there any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Carney?
Well, to cover the areas that are in black balls, will it require a transfer from one category to another?
They may, but not at this time.
Okay.
Mrs. Weaver?
I have a question on some of the 1A budget transfer. It is on 12616, category 4. It's like halfway down on your, it's for the realignment with instructional textbooks and supplies, computer software funds to cover replacement of lacrosse helmets at all high schools as needed. My questions on that is there one person that is controlling, going out to buy the helmets for all 3 high schools? Or is each high school given the funds and then they buy the helmets? And then if it's given out to all 3 high schools, then is there one place that they're purchasing them from, or, you know, to try to get a better deal, like if you're buying a larger quantity?
So I have a piece of that answer. I don't know if Dr. Marr has any additional information, but a piece of that answer is that we have a supervisor of athletics that all of those purchases are coordinated through. So the needs are being assessed at the school level, and then that communication is happening at the central office level as well.
Okay, so there's one person that is looking out to
All 3 of the high
all
schools.
3 of the high schools?
Absolutely.
Okay, okay. I wasn't sure how that was working, since it's, you know, it looks, you know, it's going out to all 3 high schools, so.
So we attempt to recondition the helmets on an annual basis, but this year there was a greater need to replace.
No, that's fine. I just wasn't sure, you know, how the money was controlled and who was purchasing and things like that. So, all right, thank you.
Mrs. Washington?
No questions, thank you.
Mrs. Allen?
My question's been covered, thank you.
All right, okay, thank you very much. Okay. And with that, we have 2 announcements. The public budget hearing on the fiscal year 2017 superintendent's recommended operating budget will be held on Wednesday, February 17th, 2016 at 6 p.m. That is, what, 1 week from today?
Yep.
All right, mark your calendars. And then the next regular board meeting will be an evening meeting on Wednesday, February 24th at 6 o'clock. So you get to hear us 3 weeks in a row.
We just keep coming back.
All right, and with that, we are adjourned.
Our work session.
We will take a, come back.